Tēnā koe te whanaunga e kawe e mihi ana ki a koe. Nā wahau I hakatau mai ai ki runga I tēnei. Kia whai wāhi nei ahau ki te kōrero ki a koutou katoa e pā mai ana I tēnei ahi ahi pō. E tika ana kia mihia tō tātou kaumātua nāna I hakatuwhera I tēnei na. E tika anō hoki ana kia tuku I ngā mihi hakawhetai ki te tuahine. Ki a koe e hine wai ki te taina ki a koe te pōhue nā kauruatahi I whai kōrero mai I tēnei ahi ahi pō. Tēnā koutou katoa, ai ko Moko te Pania tēnei, ki te taha o te ure tārewa, ko Ngāti Kahu ki Whangaroa te iwi, ki te taha o te ukaipo, ko te rarawa te iwi. So I'm Moko te Pania, the youngest councillor in Northland, which sounds funny because I'm 31 now. I was 28 when I got elected in though, but I don't feel all that young. So I'm very much looking forward and hoping that these kōrero as well, and definitely tautoko what Stace was saying about getting our younger generations in there and in this space and learning. So a little bit about me in the first instance before I have a little bit of a kōrero about the importance of a Māori cultural lens and perspective in local democracy. So my dad is Ngāti Kahu ki Whangaroa, so I'm from the east coast of Northland on that side, and mum's Te Rarawa. So I'm from Mitimiti and North Hokianga on the west coast of Northland on that side. But I live in Te Kaikohekohe, which is the hub of the north and the seat of our district as well. I'm right in the heart of Ngāpuhi. Don't tell any of the residents of the north here that I'm actually a Tauni. I was born and grew up in Whangarei, which is the next council over. But lucky enough, 5 years ago, I made the decision to move closer to home here in Kaikohe, and I also got into council. A little bit about my community. So the Far North District was a merger of 4 counties and 2 borough councils in 1989. 70,000 residents of the Far North spread across 40 different communities, 11 statutory iwi authorities, over 260 hapu groupings. Our district is 4 hours long and 2 hours wide. We have a 50.5% population of Māori, of which 33% are on the Māori electoral roll, which is a very important figure when we talk about Māori wards. And we actually have the highest capita of Māori language speakers than any other of the 67 territorial authorities in New Zealand. We have 10,000 speakers of Te Reo Māori in the Far North. So why did I run for council? I actually made the decision. E mihi ana ki a koe te tuahine e hine wai. Start thinking about it and making those decisions now, because I left it till the very last minute, a week out from when the nomination deadline was. I decided I was going to run for council and actually dropped off the nomination form on the morning, like 3 hours before the cutoff time. So I decided I wanted to run for council, similar to what Hinewa said, didn't see a reflection of myself in the makeup of council, and was a little bit sort of the attitude, maybe I need to get in there to try and see what we can do. And lucky enough for me, I did get in. But I did my homework in the first instance, and I had a look at our ward. So I represent the Kaikohe Hokianga ward, which is around 16,000 residents. And in the previous elections, only 5 candidates had stood for the 2 seats to represent this area. And I saw that you needed around 1,500 votes to actually get in. So I thought, gee, I have 1,500 cousins. Surely I'm going to get into council. And there was only one other Māori who stood at that time. And I thought, I'm going to get the young vote, and I'm going to get the Māori vote, and I'm going to get into council. And when the final candidates list came out for our area, there were 13 people who had decided to put their hand up for Kaikohe Hokianga ward, and of which 9 of us were Māori. And there was even a young fella, 18, who stood for council. And I thought, there goes all the Māori votes and there goes the youth vote. What am I going to do? But I came up with a plan. I came up with a campaign, and I travelled all around my ward. Hinewai speaking about her husband with the billboard on his back, very clever. I printed one off and drove around all of the different communities and settlements of this ward and took a photo there, had a look around, got a feel for the area, and lo and behold, on election night, the chief executive of our council gave me a call and said, "You can't celebrate just yet, but you have made it into council by 13 votes." So it came down to 13 people that I had managed to convince should give me a chance to let me be their voice on council. Once special votes were counted, I think I had broadened my gap a little bit more. But on election night, only 13 votes was the lead that got me into council. So all of the conversations you have in your campaign, the people that you speak to say, give me a chance, vote for me to let me be your voice on our council, really does make a difference. Knock on the doors, get those flyers out there, whatever it is, and however you do it. The golden te puka puka that Kinewai and Mato Baden have done, man, follow that, do it, and you're going to get in. But what I'm going to talk about is what I've been tasked with speaking about is why a Māori cultural lens and perspective and local democracy is so important. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here because, of course, a Māori cultural lens and perspective is important. And we know this because, for one, it's legislated in the Local Government Act. So the key provision is in Section 4 of the LGA, and it says that in order to recognise and respect the Crown's responsibility to take appropriate account of the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi and to maintain and improve opportunities for Māori to contribute to local government decision-making processes, councils are intended to facilitate participation by Māori in local government decision-making processes. So it's written there in black and white that local government has to take appropriate account of the principles of the treaty and has to allow a way for Māori to take part in decision-making processes. There it is. And I'm hoping that whatever happens after the reforms, because there are reforms, there is a review in local government going on now, that's actually strengthened too. So one, it's legislated. So of course, our perspective is important. Two, though, the social collectivism of our Māori culture is exactly what is needed when making hard decisions for communities, especially around equity discussions and what to do and where to do it and how to do it and what to do with the funding, the different funding pools that you get as a council to make decisions to serve your communities. And that's huge here in the north. So it's a little bit different depending on your area. But here in the far north, we have 70,000 people spread out across 40 different communities. So that means that servicing that population with local roads, with infrastructure is going to cost more, and the money is spread out across them. There are real discussions that need to take place about this community is only this small. They can't actually afford to do this, but they also need this. So the way that we as Māori think, the way that we as Māori live, that social collectivism really does play a part in the discussions that you need to make for your communities. 35 out of 78 councils are going to have Māori wards after the next local government elections. So Māori wards are what they're called for cities and districts, or they're Māori constituencies for regions. So that speaks volumes to the point that our lens is important to see that number of councils vote them across. Previously, there were only 3 councils. Bay of Plenty region, like Te Pōhui said, was the first. Was legislated to have those Māori constituencies, but then they were joined by Waikato region and Wairoa district. And now to add to that, 33 other councils out of the 78 councils of New Zealand who are going to have Māori wards or constituencies at this next election. That's huge. I mean, here in the north, it was a struggle to get it over the line. And you can look it up and read all about it, but I'm incredibly proud of the fact that I know that all 4 of our councils here in Northland, so that's Far North, Kaipara, Whangarei, and Northern region, are all going to have that special seat at the table, and those perspectives and those viewpoints playing into the conversations and the decision making around servicing and providing different avenues for the well-being of our people. That is absolutely huge. And just a little plug in there, Northern was the very first region where all councils actually got that over the line. And I think we were followed closely by Taranaki region once Stratford district finally got that over the line. But we were the first, and that's only right too, because Northern is the home of Waitangi, the home of Hokianga, the birthplace of Māoridom. So ka pai ki a tata, a little bit of a kumara plug in there. And for the councils that don't have that, like that's not the be all end all, right? There are other methods. There are some councils in areas where they didn't actually want it, or the mana whenua or iwi didn't want it, like Kaitahu. They already have mechanisms at play, but it is incredibly important that there is a multicultural lens and perspective in local government. And finally, Māori are just such cool people. We're really cool. The humor, the wit, the selflessness, the different background that we can bring to the decision-making table is so important. It's so important to have diversity at our tables. We don't want there to be, a table of 10 drones just droning on and actually not bringing any invigoration or depth or breadth to the conversations that need to be had for the betterment of our communities. And I know that we as Māori, we are different too, and that's important too. We take who we are and being Māori, we take that to the table along with our upbringings, our own backgrounds, our own experiences, and it will play into how you represent your area. So a multicultural lens and perspective in local democracy is incredibly important. And by making a decision, if passionate and if it's the right thing for you and for your whānau to stand for your local council or your local community board or your local board for Auckland, you can make a difference. Whether you have experience in this or not, local government New Zealand says that the only thing you need to stand for council is a passion for your community. And I add to that my own one, and that's an ability to read, because the number of documents that you have to read. I'm really glad that I decided to go digital and council gave me an iPad. Otherwise, I would probably have half the rainforest's worth of paper and in my spare room otherwise, for the amount of content you actually have to absorb by reading. So the ability to read is actually very important too. Just to close, you just make this decision to stand. You have an awesome campaign that is backed by Te Puka Puka Tapu, a Henewai Rao ko Baden. You get in there. I just put together this as a little closing, and these are the four fuckers to make it into council, right? The four fuckers to make it in council, or the four huckers if you are from up north here, like me. So the first one is haka whanaungatanga, right? Get to know who is in the show. That's so important. Haka whanaungatanga, it's such a simple cultural concept for us as Māori, but it actually plays out so importantly in everything in life, but especially in council. Knowing who's who, what's what, how's how is so important. Getting to know the language. I'm fluent in Te Reo Māori, Hori English, gibberish. I can hold a conversation in Spanish. I know a little bit of New Zealand Sign Language, and I can order a feed and a beer in Khmer, in Cambodian, but local government has another language altogether, and you have to learn it. And I'm still not fluent. And gee, government departments, councils love their what's it called? Their acronyms, like DIA, Department of Internal Affairs, LGNZ, Local Government New Zealand, RMA, the Resource Management Act, LGA, the Local Government Act, LEA, the Local Electoral Act, OIA, the Official Information Act, OMG, oh my gosh, WTF. So, you do actually have to learn up, but you can learn on the job, man. I got in here green as, and I'm still not fluent, but you do learn on the job, and that's cool as well. Two, so the first whaka was whaka whanaungatanga. The second whaka is whakakemu. Gamify, play the game. This is an actual game. When you get near this politics business, it is a game. Learn the rules. So for me, standing orders, this is what governs how meetings happen, how they happen, what you can and can't do. What's great is that with this whole lockdown business is that a lot of council meetings went online, and there are so many meetings that you can actually watch on YouTube to see how a meeting is run, to actually have a go at it. So standing orders, the rules, the what you can and can't do. Standing orders are the reason why the Far North District Council will have Māori wards at the October elections, and that's because I used them to my advantage to be able to get this kaupapa over the line. So know the rules, like the annual plan. The annual plan is what is funded and how it's funded, and it feeds off from the long-term plan. This is what your council does every 3 years. It's a 10-year plan, and it's everything that is actually funded. You're so passionate because you want a swimming pool for your local township. That swimming pool's not going to happen unless it's in the long-term plan. So you need a hakakemu, learn the rules. And Māori are the best game players and the strategists that I know. So do your homework, learn the rules, or learn how to cheat. And if you know that, then you're going to be able to play this game and you're going to be able to get the wins for your community that you want. My third whaka is to whakarereke, to change tact, right? So change things up if you're not getting somewhere. It took me 18 months to get one council service rubbish bin for Panguru Village in North Hokianga. And it was a lot of backwards and forwardsing. But as a reflective practitioner, I would probably change how I took that the next time round. So if something's not working, like don't continue to butt your head against the wall, because you're just going to end up with a hole in the wall and a sore head. Change it up a little bit. And my fourth whaka is to whakareka, to sweeten the deal. And as Māori, like we love having a kai. Kai will get you far. Sweeten things. Actually, we're really good at doing the haka a lot of the time, but sometimes we need to sweeten people up. Get to know staff, get to know your colleagues, give them lollies. What is the price of some chocolate, and what it means if you show someone that you genuinely appreciate them by giving them some chocolate or some lollies, and what will that do for your relationship? So in our council, in all councils, we have democracy services or a governance team, and they're usually responsible for helping councillors and dealing with meetings and all of that. And we've got a group of girls in our council who I called the GGs, the governance girls. And I love these ladies in our council, because if you want anything done, if you need any help, then you need one of the GGs to back you up. So one of the things that I made a point of doing was always making sure that each week I took the GGs some chocolate, not because I wanted them to owe me or I wanted a favor later, but it actually pays off. I actually genuinely appreciate them. So I show that by expressing it through the hakareka with some chakarete and some rare. So it goes far. Shout someone a coffee. Go catch up with one of your colleagues when you're butting heads or you want to try, you need some help to get something over the line. It's always a numbers game. It comes down to the votes. At our council table, we have 10, which means that we need 6 yes votes for something to get over the line. What's 6 coffees? Nah, what's 6 coffees? So yeah, my 4 whakas to get into council: whakawhanaungatanga, whakakemu, whakarereke, and whakareka. And that brings me to a close to my kōrero. And if all else fails, right, this is your sweetener. Teka painoa kia reka. Fake it till you make it. Ngā mihi nui, ka hakahoki atu i te rā ka kōrero ki a koe e kawe.